who lives in London and is, anybody here use Stack Overflow? John Skeet has more points on Stack Overflow than anyone else. He was the speaker in Southfield in January when I went there. So they're still getting amazing speakers. They're still getting great attendance. They still have this mountain of stuff to give away. And it was Thai food was on the dinner that night. It was amazing. It was awesome. I could kind of still see my thumbprints on it. But I didn't have to be there. I didn't have to be involved in that. When I was there, I was like bringing other people in to volunteer, getting them to have ownership in it. I know we had things like, before I joined, a few of the leaders would go out to the bar. They'd whisper at each other, hey, let's go to the bar. We're going to go to this bar after the meeting. And when I became president, I got up to the podium afterwards. We're all going to the bar. We're not buying your drinks, but come and join us. Here's the bar. Here's a map of how to get there. We'd have 50 people at the bar afterwards. We had more people just going out for the social event afterwards than most user groups do anywhere. So it was really just an amazing experience to be involved in this community. One of the things we did, we started doing other things besides our monthly meeting. We had something we called a code slinger. So it was just a way to get together and write code together, just a learning experience. We met originally at a coffee shop in Southfield, and I met this guy. I met Onorio. He showed up for one of the first ones, and he didn't even introduce himself. He was like, we got there and we looked over in the corner after about 20 minutes. That guy looks like he's writing code. I wonder if he's here for us. So we talked to him. And I guess he was too shy to say, I'm here for the meeting. But he was writing code. He was writing some functional program. He wanted to learn F#. And he was doing it. So come on over here. We want to learn it too. And we started talking to him. He became heavily involved in the user group. And then later on went on to form his own user groups. He runs a couple of conferences now. He runs a conference called, it was changed its name a couple times. I think it was Detroit Dev Day. And a couple of years ago, it was held here at Kobo, and I gave a keynote there. And because of Onorio, he was running it. He asked me, called me up, could you do a keynote there? It was cool. It was one of my first keynotes I had given. I was really excited. And who was in the audience? But this guy. And he heard it and invited me to give a keynote here. So that connection really led to a couple things. And so Wolfgang here, who some of you know, is one of the driving forces behind this conference. And I have a story about Wolfgang. So he and I met each other, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago maybe, and it was not a good start. It really was not. I had just started working for a consulting company, and on day one, first day in the office, I met with a salesperson, and she said, we've got this job for you. It's with a financial services company. It's over here. You're going to show up tomorrow, and you're going to be doing some SharePoint development. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. Well, you probably know that I've never really done any SharePoint development before, but I'm happy to learn. I'm all about the learning. I love to learn stuff. And she said, don't worry about that. I told them you're a SharePoint expert. This was day one of this job. And I'm not making this up. I seriously thought about quitting the job on day one. I seriously thought about this. I did not. I thought, well, let's give it a shot. Day two, I showed up at this company. Wolfgang was the manager there, and I tried to hide the fact that I didn't know anything about it. I asked a lot of questions, gathered all the requirements, and then they had a server room, the loud fans blowing. I said, I'm going to go work over here in the server room. I hid in the server room, worked there for a few days, and then I said, you know what? I dreaded when I had to come back and ask for more information because I didn't want to expose my ignorance to these folks. I went back and I think we had a couple of weeks to deliver it. I went back to work remotely at our office, and there wasn't a waking hour where I didn't work on this thing because I wanted to at least I wanted to deliver it. There was no way I was going to exceed expectations. I certainly wanted to meet expectations. And we delivered it. We got a SharePoint solution in place, and it worked, and I was really proud of myself that I had totally pulled the wool over these guys' eyes. They didn't know I wasn't a SharePoint expert. And I got to know Wolfgang later on. He went to another company, and I worked for them for a little bit, and he runs a user group. I spoke there one time. I'd see him at conferences around the city. I'm more of a developer. He's more of a security guy, so we didn't go to all the same conferences, but there was some crossover. And one day I said, hey, I'm really embarrassed. It's years ago when we first met. You didn't know this, but it was really awkward when I first met you. He said, is that because you didn't know SharePoint? I Anyway, that's where I was. So the story has a happy ending. Now I'm standing up here at his conference. And he has an awesome podcast, by the way. If you check that out, it's right there. Let's see. This is Bill. Bill spoke. Is Bill here this year?
No, he keynoted last year.
He keynoted. So you guys seen Bill. I have a good story about Bill, too. This is how I first met Bill. I kind of knew who he was through social media. We followed each other on Twitter. I was consulting at a large automobile manufacturer in Detroit. I don't want to say its name, but it starts with a G. And I was doing something with security. I had to figure out how to do some security that integrated Active Directory with some Linux directory service using some toolkit. I know I was lost. I was struggling with it a lot. And what do you do when you're having trouble? You whine on social media. That's what I did. I said, hey, does anybody know how to do this stuff? And Bill chimed in. He said, hey, I've got some experience with that. And we started in 140 characters having a conversation over Twitter, which it's not a good way to talk about security. So then we started, evolved to email and then to a phone call. And so he gave me his phone number, and we were talking on the phone, and he said, boy, it's too bad that we don't live closer. I think I could show you this a lot easier. And I said, well, where do you live? He said, Columbus, Ohio. And I was downtown Detroit over at the Renaissance Center. And I said, what are you doing tomorrow? And he was free. So I drove down to Columbus, Ohio. We met in a Whole Foods, and I bought him a salad bar or something. And he spent hours with me showing me how to do this claims-based authentication, which I was totally ignorant at. Just almost random connection on social media solved this huge problem I was having, made me look good to the customer from a virtual stranger. Really, really cool. This is Mihai. Mihai lives in Romania. And Mihai and I, we met in Boston one year, and we ended up doing a presentation together at TechEd, which was a big conference, big technical conference in the U.S. that doesn't exist anymore. But it was big. There were 20,000 people there. Not in our session, but I got to know Mihai. We became friends. We went to TechEd. We did a session together one year, and then we were back at TechEd the next year. And I was having lunch with him in Orlando, Florida, and he happened to mention, he said, did you know that I run a conference in Romania? And I said, no, I did not know that. That's awesome. He said, yeah, and I'd like you to speak there. And I said, oh, wow, that's great. Would you help me pay for my travel if I do? He said, I'll pay all your travel. I'm like, done. When? Tell me when. Let's go. And so the next year, I was in Transylvania, Cluj-Napoca, large tech hub city in northern Romania. Transylvania. It was amazing. People from all over the world were speaking there. Met a great group of speakers, all because I had just befriended this one guy. I had no idea it was. I knew one other guy. Actually, I knew two guys. At that time, I knew two guys from Romania, Mihai and Tibi. Tibi was just moving away. He happened to live in Cluj-Napoca, the same city. He picked me up at the airport, which was lucky because Lufthansa lost my luggage, and I didn't speak Romanian, so he kind of saved my life there. But Tibi was just moving away from Romania to Sweden, and he ran a conference in Stockholm. And I didn't realize that until I started talking to him, hanging out with him after the airport, whining about my luggage. And next thing you know, I'm speaking in a conference in Sweden. Just because I've made these connections. He saw me speak at this conference in Transylvania. He said, hey, this guy's pretty good. Let's have him speak there. Great connection. Stockholm is an amazing place. By far the farthest north I've ever been in my life. And then I just threw this slide in last night because I flew into Detroit yesterday, and I opened up Facebook, and I see there's some guy hanging out at a dive bar on Randolph Street that I know. And so I showed up there and surprised him. And he's not even from here. He's from Coldwater, Michigan, southwest Michigan. There's another guy there from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, hanging out. They're all from work together at Quicken Loans down the street. And when I was there, he posted something on Facebook that I was there. I get a call from this guy, Rich, on the right here. And he said, hey, you're still in town? Let's go have coffee. So I actually met up with a couple people, even though I made no previous plans while I was here, which is really cool. All right, so these are stories about my journey, and you may be wondering, how was this relevant to me? Does this have any effect on what I want to do? And the reason I tell these stories is there is a point. There is something that you can take away from my journey, from where I started 20 years ago, first getting into tech, to now where I have my dream job. I'll tell you what is not the point. The point is not that you can just make connections and forget about technical skills and forget about doing your job right. Number one is still doing your job right. You have technical skills. And I assume everybody here is passionate about the technology. You wouldn't be coming out here and giving up 2 days of your life to learn new stuff if you weren't all about that. But I bet there's people in the room that are not doing a good job of connecting with other people. Now, you've been here with there are hundreds of people here at this conference, and maybe you came with a group and you're not talking to anybody outside of that group. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a lot to be gained by expanding your network. It certainly was for me. Because by ourselves, we only know so much. But once we start to expand that network, then we can expand the available knowledge. If I didn't know Bill Sempf, then it would be really hard for me to beef up my knowledge about token-based authentication. I was woefully ignorant about that. I'm still kind of surprised I'm at a security conference because my password is still password. It's still that word. Don't tell anybody, okay? Just from the amount of knowledge that's now available to me, because I met this guy at this conference, I met that guy at that conference. Somebody says, "Hey, I really need somebody that's an expert on content management systems." I think, you know what? I know a guy named Chet. He lives in Memphis, Tennessee. I can call him, or I can put you in touch with him. And it's really expanded the breadth of my knowledge, breadth and the depth of my knowledge, because I don't have to hold all that in my head. I have people that I can draw on, and it helps me. It helps my customers as well. And I've connected to these people. It helps in terms of knowledge. It helps in terms of opportunities. I have this job in a large part because I met people like Josh and Jennifer and Brian who had this job before me, and I said, "This is an awesome job. How do I get there?" I can connect with those people. I can connect other people with other people as this network becomes more and more interconnected. I've had plenty of mentors. Almost everybody that I've shown a picture of today, I would consider a mentor. Even those that are much younger than me, they've guided my career in a lot of ways, all because I went to conferences, I went to user groups, and I just talked to people. I asked them these questions. These guys have helped me out a lot. In fact, almost everybody whose picture I've shown so far, I owe some debt to. They've done so much more for me than I ever have done for them, and I don't worry about that. I really don't. They know it. I know it. What I try to do is I pay it forward. I try to go to places like the user group that I created, and I said, let's bring some awesome speakers in to teach these guys, and by doing that work, maybe I'm paying forward a little bit what I got from those who came ahead of me. And I worry, I think about this a lot. I don't keep a balance sheet of every individual person, but I kind of keep a balance sheet of the universe that I want to be paying forward at least as much as I'm receiving. So where this relates to you is what you can do in a similar way to advance your career, to advance your life. And maybe you're doing this already, but maybe you're not. One of the huge advantages of building this network and engaging the developer community is just the idea that you can increase your knowledge. So you already know this. Come to this event right now, sit in these sessions, absorb what the speaker is saying. Most of the talks are much more technical than this one. And you're learning something from that, but how many of you are learning something at lunchtime? How many of you are sitting with a stranger at lunchtime and saying, what problems are you solving? Or just, here, I have this problem. Does anybody know how to solve it? This is a great opportunity for that. Even if you're not at a conference, just getting out on social media and sharing that stuff is a huge advantage to that. Finding experts in your field, increasing your knowledge, networking helps you do this. Jobs. This is an industry where the average person stays in a job about 3 years. And so if people that are out looking for new jobs, it's sure a lot easier to find a job if you have a network of people that know you. It's sure a lot easier to find new people if you're in the same situation, as people leave or as your company expands, companies are looking for people more than people are looking for companies. The demand is such that that's really the big challenge. But that's a lot easier once you've got out in network with people. If you're at bonus points, if you're actually standing in front of people and talking. I've been amazed. I've been to user groups where I remember when I was looking for a job a few years ago, I stood up and I said, "Hey, this company got sold and I'm on the market." And then I sat down and I was surprised. 5 people were around me after the meeting, just saying, "Hey, so send me your resume. What are you looking for?" It's just because I had been a regular attendee there. And then don't knock the social interaction. It's enjoyable to meet new people. I certainly like that a lot. This is not everybody that's in software development is extremely social, but that's a muscle. That's a muscle that you can actually exercise. And if you're not great face-to-face with the internet is a big thing, and social media is an amazing thing to keep connections going until you see someone in the future. And I really enjoy that, and that's the reason, even without making any plans, I ended up hanging out with some old friends over the last 24 hours, just because I was in town and Facebook is a thing. Reputation I throw this in here because it's kind of, I'm really amazed by how smart people think I am. There's something about standing in front of an audience that creates the illusion that you're an expert. And that's not necessarily true, but it's sort of like writing a book. People that write a book, it gives them credibility. People that stand in front of an audience and speak, it gives them credibility. And it doesn't mean that you're any smarter than the people that are in the room that are listening to you. Maybe you know more about that one topic than they do. But there's something about that adds credibility. And I've had that many times. Certainly in my job search it's helped. Certainly in dealing with customers, it's helped. When I was a consultant for many years. I realized that a lot of people would listen to me more closely if they'd seen me speak at a conference. It just gave me that credibility. I had to earn it afterwards. Helping others, I think, is a huge benefit. This is like crack to me. I just really get off on the idea that something I'm doing is benefiting other people. When I teach a class and people get it and I see that they understand something because of something I did, I absolutely love that. This is one of my favorite things to do. And it's fun. Interaction, developing with the community. I've made tons of great friends. I can't recommend that enough. Now, it's not easy for everybody. There's communities that you're already a part of. There's communities that you haven't been that maybe you're not as involved in. And I really haven't defined community. Community can be anything from family to your classmates. See, that's me right there in college. Your neighborhood, your coworkers. I'm really talking about the technical community here, the developers and the IT pros, people that you can share knowledge with. That you share something already. You already share a passion of something that you're doing not only for a living, but kind of things you're willing to give up a Thursday and a Friday to come and learn more about, interact about. And these are the conferences like this one, the code camps. I think the distinction is that the code camps tend to be free and the conferences tend to get paid for. So maybe tomorrow we'd consider that a code camp, the B-sides thing. Who's coming tomorrow? Oh, lots of people are coming tomorrow. Awesome. That's great. User groups like the one I used to run in Southfield, like the one that Wolfgang run. You used to run your user group? Wow. It's big time. Outstanding. User groups are a great way to get involved, and I encourage you guys to check out the user groups in the area, either the 3 that Wolf just mentioned, or just go to meetup.com. You'll find some things there you can search on based on topics and geography. You can also use your favorite search engine. The only one I know is Bing, but I think there's other ones out there. Look for it. Give camps. I even mentioned give camps. Give camps are a terrific way to learn and to interact with other people and to help people. Give camps are these 48-hour, almost like a hackathon over a weekend. People lock themselves in a room over the weekend and they build projects for charities. So they'll build something that a charity, some nonprofit needs, and they have fun doing it, and they're doing some good in the world, and usually there's a chance to learn some technology over that weekend. And I've been to a bunch of those. There's still the one that goes on every year. I think there's one in Ann Arbor and one in Lansing that goes on every year still. And social media also is a great way of connecting with people. I can't keep up with it anymore. There's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are probably about all I can do now. My company wants me to use Yammer, and I only have like 20 minutes a day I'm not on social media. I don't want to give that up. But still, it's great. The one thing I love about social media more than anything is in between. There's a lot of people that I only see maybe once or twice a year because they don't live close by, and I interact with them through this conference, the network of conference speakers, and keeping that relationship alive during those times in between. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those are really good for that. Maybe Mastodon will be good for that. I don't know. It's not easy. It's not easy for everybody. There's some challenges in interacting with the developer or the technical community. One, of course, is time. You've got your day job, you've got your family, you've got your other activities. It's hard to squeeze in a monthly user group meeting. It's hard to take off 2 or 3 days to come to a conference like this. It's a challenge. If you really want to do it, you can find the time. Go to every other meeting. Show up, every other month, and start to interact with these people, these folks. This is a big one in the tech community. A lot of people that gravitate towards IT don't have awesome social skills like you and I do. It's true. People get into dealing with computers because computers don't talk back. They can go in a room and they can just work quietly for a long period of time. And that's sort of a stereotype, and there's a lot of people that are like that. But social interaction is a muscle. It's something that can be exercised. And if you go to an event like this and you, at lunch, sit with one stranger and strike up a conversation with them, and you're not used to that, it'll be hard. But the next time you go, it'll be a little bit easier, and the next time it'll be a little bit easier. And if you wanted to be one of those people that stands up in front of a room and talks to people, for most of us, that's terrifying. It was for me the first time, but the second time it was a little less terrifying, and the third time a little bit less. And I got a little bit better at it each time. And I expect that a year from now, I'll be better than I am today. It's a muscle. All these things are muscles that you can exercise. So just saying, I'm shy, I'm not good with mixing with people, I'm not good at public speaking, that's a challenge, but it's not a limitation. And this was a big one for me. We all want to appear smart. We all want everyone to think that we know what we're talking about, and so we're afraid to ask questions, to reveal our ignorance. And that is a huge mistake. I wish I could go back in time and tell my 25-year-old self what an idiot I was for taking this attitude. Ask questions. Reveal your ignorance. It's the best way to learn. Come to these things here. I don't mind. I go to many, many conferences where I'm the dumbest guy in the room. I'm certainly the dumbest guy in this room regarding security. And whatever I want to learn, it'll help me to learn by saying that out loud, by letting you guys know. Don't assume that I know anything about what you guys are experts at. And I bring that out because I know I'm not alone in this. I know a lot of people that are trying to convince others that they're worthy, that they're experts, that they belong as part of the conversation. The conversation includes a lot of questions. Ask questions. Do not be afraid of it. What can you do? Look for your local user groups. You want to get involved, talk to them, go up and show up at them, introduce yourself to the leaders of it, go to a couple meetings. If you really want to get involved, volunteer. They're always looking for somebody to order the food every month. They're looking for somebody to schedule the meeting every month, make sure that the room is available, somebody to show up 10 minutes early to rearrange the chairs in the room. They're almost always looking for speakers. You want to try speaking? User groups are a great way to start. The user group I ran, we implemented something called lightning talks, 10-minute presentations before the meeting. Anybody could do them. If you've never given a talk before, show up, stand in front for 10 minutes. Maybe it'll be awesome and you'll love it and you'll want to do it again. Maybe it'll be awful. Maybe. But so what? It's 10 minutes. It's not like preparing a 75-minute presentation. People are really forgiving about user group presentations, and they'll handle that really well. Attend code. You're already doing this. Attend conferences, code camps in the area. But if you're not doing this already, when you attend, make an effort to find people that you don't know. Don't just show up with the folks that you work with and stick with them. Walk around. Connect with your peers. Connect with like-minded people. Get their email addresses. Follow them on social media. Start expanding that interaction. Find out what they're good at. What are their specialties, so that when you have a question, you'll have a group of people to talk to and to answer your questions for you. Volunteer. I guess I got ahead of myself. Get involved in these groups, these meetups, these conferences, these organizations, these give camps. Volunteer. It's hard. Find the time. It's great. I'm going to close with, I actually wrote a lot of these thoughts down a few years ago on my blog. In fact, this is like an old version of my blog, but kind of the URL should still work. Go ahead and read my thoughts there. So a lot of the photos I showed here, I took them myself. You can find those photos right here. And I'll make these slides available somehow through the conference. I'll get them to the conference organizers. And I had one more slide here. Oh, I want to still one more slide. I must have hidden it by mistake. I want to, before I go, I want to give a shout out to a close friend of mine. This is Jim. And Jim is one of my mentors. I had his picture earlier in the slide. And he is, his wife was killed earlier this year in a violent act. And this presentation is dedicated to him and his family. I hope that you'll keep them in your prayers. My name is David, and I work for Microsoft, and I thank you so much for your time. God bless you.